Understanding how ghosts in Dwarf Fortress work is really important. It's a basic part of fortress maintenance. You want to have good ghost hygiene, good paranormal hygiene, and the reason for that is because ghosts, basically all they will do is disrupt the flow of your fortress, sometimes in dangerous ways, sometimes just in meddlesome ways, but the fact of the matter is, all ghosts want from you is to know that somebody still remembered them. So yeah, we're going to talk about the different kinds of ghosts, the different kinds of hauntings, and different strategies to just kind of deal with ghosts in general. Make sure that all of the dwarves that pass away in your fortress under your care, make sure that they move on to the afterlife and they don't come back to mess up everything and make people sad. Now, on my last video, I mentioned that I just embarked on a gently haunted ocean, and a few things have come back to life. Honestly, I haven't even had to worry about zombification or the raising of corpses. It's been a suspiciously low non-issue because I think it's only happened twice, like once to a crab and then once to like a Ratman invader or something like that. We had to just kill it twice because it came back from the dead. But one thing I have noticed, and I haven't found any research to support this, but I feel it in my gut that this is happening, is that I think the main evil thing is like affecting the game on some variable. Like maybe it's affecting the dwarves' moods in ways that affect the way that they become a ghost or something like that. I am getting ghosts, I would say at least 3 or 4 different ghosts that are actively scaring dwarves to death. So we're going to get into the types of ghosts, and the scariest ones, obviously, are the ones that can kill you physically, and then almost as bad, right behind that, are the ones that can scare you so bad that you are scared to death. And the thing about ghosts is that they'll basically always make enough trouble to get your attention and to make you want to solve it. I mean, ghosts are really well balanced in Dwarf Fortress because they really do. They'll do just enough mischief or cause enough serious problems, dependent on their personality as a person, as a dwarf when they were alive, that you will usually be encouraged to not ignore them. Honoring the dead is mandatory because of the amount of trouble they cause. So these are the types of ghost. The ghost's activities may be determined by the nature of its death and its personality traits using the following table in order. So in order, and what that means is that if a dwarf's personality checks out for the topmost type of ghost, then that's what they get. It takes priority. So in priority order is basically what we're trying to say. Top priority doesn't mean it's the most common, but it means that if a dwarf has this trait, that's the kind of ghost, that's the behavior they're going to have as a ghost. And this will make sense as I give you some examples. So the top priority one is murderous ghost, which makes sense, right? Like if you had a murderous personality in life and then you became a ghost, you could do whatever you want. You would probably become a murderous ghost. So the causes are they had a fell mood. So this ties into legendary items, and a quick overview because people might not remember or be familiar. So legendary items happen when a dwarf with some craft knowledge gets an idea for a magical, one-of-a-kind, unbreakable item that will be unique in the world and exist in the world, in the map that you made for all time. And that's a whole nother video. I actually made a few videos about it, so you can check that out on the channel. I think it's called like legendary and cursed items. Oh, the last thing I want to say about legendary items that's important to know here is that dwarves can die. Well, they will die if they do not complete their legendary item in time. So if they have all the materials they need, they make the legendary item and everything's good. That's awesome. Now you have the legendary item. But so if they fail, they will go insane. And I believe one of 3 ways. They will either run around babbling incoherently until they die of thirst, or they will go berserk, in which case they will attack other dwarves until they are struck down, which also results in death. Or they will wander around forlornly, and they'll also be too depressed to eat or drink, and they will eventually pass away from that. So they'll either go crazy and be struck down, or they will die in some way of a broken heart or a broken mind. So that is important to know for ghosts, because it's going to just mention moods here. So a fell mood is the one where a dwarf is going to kill another dwarf as their art, and they didn't get to, they weren't able to, and so they went berserk and were struck down or whatever. If they had very low altruism, then they will also come back as a murderous ghost. Or if this is important, their slab or their grave was deconstructed. So think about that. So honoring the dead makes, the ghosts go away. They only come back if they feel like they've been forgotten. But so if you make them a memorial, but then the dwarves, move on, break down the memorial, they're like, okay, we honored him and now we're done. We can forget about him now. Then any personality type will come back as murderous, because it's like, you really turned your back on me. And so murderous ghosts, as the name implies, they just straight up murder dwarves. But so if the dwarf in question does not qualify as a murderous ghost, it is then checked for sadistic ghost, which is second most dangerous, second most lashing out, basically powerful in a negative way, which is the metric of strength for, all ghosts in this game, basically. So sadistic ghost had a macabre mood or low altruism. Also low altruism, but okay, so it looks like the game rolls dice, so the lower the altruism, the more likely to be murderous, but if it's only slightly low altruism, then you're also rolling in the sadistic ghost. Macabre mood is like, I don't remember, but it's like, they make things out of roadkill or something. Let me just click through and remember what that is. But it's like, they don't actually kill another dwarf. It's not like serial killing is their art or anything. I guess they're not serial killing because they do it once in a lifetime. Yeah, what do they make things out of bones, skulls, or vermin remains. So yeah, basically it's like edgy kid. Fell mood is where they're actually going to kill somebody. Macabre mood is where they're just edgy AF. Sadistic ghosts can batter, scare, and paralyze dwarves, and they are capable of scaring a dwarf to death. So to my knowledge, I don't think I got any alerts that they were being battered. I think they were being straight up... I think these were definitely murderous ghosts the more I think about it, because I didn't get any alerts about them being battered or anything like that. Because contorted look of fear might happen if you were physically murdered by a ghost, but also if you were scared to death. It's hard to know. So after that, if you don't qualify as a sadistic ghost, you might become a violent ghost. This one specifically, if you were berserk, which as I said, so berserk occurs as one of the 3 types of madness if you can't complete any legendary item. So macabre and fell moods are tied specifically to those 2 top levels of ghost. But then the next one is just any berserker, so like 33% of all the dwarves you lose to legendary item attempts that they failed. They can become violent ghosts, which can batter dwarves up to, it says often but not always removing limbs. So can critically injure a ghost, basically permanently injure a ghost unless you're cheating with DF hack or something. I want to take a quick segue to just say like how lazy I've gotten about hospitals as well, because now I just have an area on one of my hotkeys, it has a few beds in it, and I just check the beds and I use DF hack to just full heal everyone. It's like Valhalla. My best warriors fight bravely and are dismembered every night, but then they wake up the next morning fully healed and do the same thing. It's a lot of fun if you're interested in playing that way. If you're not cheating, Violent Ghost can be life-changing event, so, that's something to think about. Also, high anger propensity, apparently. So if you had a temper in life, then you might become a violent ghost in the afterlife. Now we're getting into the ones that are less like, oh my gosh, someone is hurt. But these are still ghosts that you're really going to want to clear because, so we've talked on this channel about keeping dwarves happy. And I think even in the original video where I talked about that, I talked about how being haunted by a ghost is just a real downer for most personalities. So when you're checking your dwarf's moods, a lot of times you'll see like one dwarf screams past all the others in terms of returning to unhappiness after anything good has happened. After, even if you make him happy in the traditional way with, nice meals and waterfalls and stuff, you'll be like, wait, what is wrong with this dwarf? Do they just have a mood issue? Which sometimes they do. Sometimes they're just like depressive dwarves or, very quick to anger. They just have some mood issue. A lot of times, and in the case of the map I'm playing right now, this is what it kept being, is that they're being quietly haunted by a ghost, and the ghost is really traumatizing them, is really freaking them out, and making them upset every day, and you just haven't checked on that ghost, you haven't checked on that dwarf in a while, so they haven't had a chance to talk to you about it, which is to say, you haven't had a chance to, check what's bothering them. So yeah, keep an eye on it, stay on top of your ghosts for sure. But so that's what we're getting into now, if there's no murderous, sadistic, or violent ghosts, it stops being like a horror movie and more like maybe a psychological drama. Still, not good for the joy and well-being of well-adjusted dwarves. The other thing is that ghosts will often seek out the ones who knew them. So, if you saw a random a ghost, like a ghost kid, run through your house or whatever, that'd be really freaky. But if you saw a ghost member of your own family, it has a much heavier weight, obviously. So just keep all of that in mind. So a moaning spirit. They were either melancholic, that's one of the 3 types of insanity that I was trying to remember earlier. So that's where they became so depressed by the fact they couldn't make their legendary artifact that they stopped eating. Or if they had a high depression propensity token, so if they were just depressive in general, they will trouble one unfortunate dwarf at a time. Again, keep that in mind. It doesn't specify that they'll bother their own family or whatever, but think like moaning Myrtle in the bathroom. They'll post up, and then when they find someone they like, that dwarf is now going to have a major sanity and happiness debuff until you figure it out. After that is Howling Spirit, was stark raving mad or had high stress vulnerability. Stark raving mad is the one where they run around babbling. I'm really glad I actually explained that legendary item. When I was explaining the 3 types of insanity, I'm like, am I getting too off track, or is this helpful to the ghost discussion? And it turns out it was actually really critical, so good on me. But so, a howling spirit was either stark raving mad, that means they were running around babbling after they couldn't complete their legendary artifact, or if they had high stress vulnerability in general, if they were like an easily stressed person. And they make sleeping difficult wherever they are. Oh, so one other thing that we didn't talk about yet is ghosts, because they can get in anywhere, basically. So ghosts go wherever they want more than any other unit. Making sleeping difficult, like they'll make it difficult for the whole fortress if they want to, if they decide to. And they do wander quite a bit, ghost wanders. That's going to be a problem for everyone. Here are the list of movement cheats that a ghost gets. Ghosts are able to pass through walls, doors, floors, and other impassable tiles. They can open hatches even when mechanically linked and unlock any locked doors that they happen to pass through. Ghosts may block building construction and immigrant arrival. Ghosts are generally immune to harm except for a few bugs. Howling Ghost is going to go where it wants. Imagine like a cat, like a really noisy cat, the noisiest cat you ever had, like that just like to scream and run around at night. That's what you're dealing with if you don't resolve the Howling Ghost. Angry Ghost, which you would have thought in all these we would have gotten to, was possessed. Interesting. And then it in turn possesses dwarves, causing them to throw tantrums, may still be capable of battering dwarves. Now I have to look up for myself. Possessed is a specific strange mood. I forgot about that. So possessed dwarves have cryptic material requests and the unfortunate distinction of not receiving any experience upon successful construction of an artifact. They don't even learn anything from it because they don't remember what happened. Possession is the only mood that does not result in a jump in the experience. Hey, so we learned something else today even. Learn something all the time. And that's why I like to do these videos, is because every time I force myself to really parse the wiki, the Dwarf Fortress Wikia, I learn something. But so an angry ghost, if they were possessed and died, then they in turn will possess dwarves, causing them to throw tantrums, and it may be capable of battering dwarves, which again is just like, can cause injury. And now we're getting to the poltergeists. Energetic poltergeists were in a fey mood or had high activity level. Fey is the fun one. It's like bright and vibrant. So super manic, but they don't mean anyone any harm. They will topple furniture such as chairs, which can, poltergeist. It just moves things around. So second type is the secretive poltergeist, which was in a secretive mood when it failed its legendary item check, or had high bashful. This will misplace items. This one is pretty harmless, but it can... So the thing about misplaced items, if something goes missing or if something is stolen, dwarves that care about that kind of thing or like interacted with that item before, like say for example it's the heirloom legendary item shield that is some heirloom for some dwarf in your fortress. If that goes missing, yeah, they're going to get really upset. That's going to ruin their mood for a good while, at least until it turns up. But, it seems like they'll just misplace kind of random things in my experience. So it'll be like a cup or something. And then you'll get an alert that says, surely this ghost is to blame. And that's your cue to fix it. Last type of poltergeist is a troublesome poltergeist. Had high immoderation. That's the only requirement. Poor impulse control will make a troublesome poltergeist. They will misplace items and also topple furniture and pull levers. So an energetic and a secretive poltergeist mixed together is a troublesome poltergeist, basically. Moving still down in terms of priority, if the types of ghost have not... This dwarf is a very uninteresting dwarf, and so all these checks it doesn't qualify for. Then you get 2 types of haunts. So Restless Haunt had high gregariousness, at least as high as dutifulness, or never completed any jobs. I'm not sure how that happens, or never completed any jobs. I'm not sure how a dwarf lives a life without... And what qualifies as a completed job and how you would never do that. I'll ask my comment section that as well. Like, how would a dwarf die without never completing any jobs? But the gregariousness and dutifulness thing makes sense because, like, the idea behind a restless haunt is that all it will do is drift around the place of death and frequented locations. So it's, it's the stereotype of, like, a ghost that just goes through the motions. Like, spoiler alert for The Sixth Sense. Pause it right now if you still haven't seen that 20-plus-year-old movie with the most classic twist. It's a ghost like our boy Bruce Willis, who just kind of goes through the motions of what he used to do when he was alive. This will cause other dwarves unhappy thoughts. It creeps them out to see a ghost walking among them. It'll haunt dwarves and appear to them. So that's just kind of a general... It'll bring down the mood in a serious way wherever it used to hang out. And then the last time, if it doesn't even qualify for that, then it'll default as a forlorn haunt, which just drifts around death in frequent locations. I guess... I'm not even sure if it does anything. I'm not sure if it affects dwarves at all. I guess they can still see it. If it appears in a frequented location, it can still give bad thoughts, I suppose. But that's not even listed in the Wikia yet. So this is the best part. Here is the quick Science on Ghosts summary from the Dwarf Fortress Wikia. Cave-ins do not kill ghosts, perhaps because they can walk through walls already. Ghosts, however, can suffer bruises and even organ rupture if struck by a minecart. Ghosts can open doors, even forbidden ones, and will leave them unlocked on the way through. Ghosts can and will grow up if they came back as a child and die of old age. That's very interesting. That doesn't seem necessarily right. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, I saw that in one of the Bay 12 forums about like ghost science, ongoing ghost science. It was saying that like there was still an old age cap that ghosts could interact with in some way that would age them out or something. You'd have to find that on your own. I don't remember exactly. I don't want to tell it wrong. But it's also listed, ghosts can be frozen in water. Fun fact, ghosts can be frozen in water. Ghosts can be murdered by dwarves taken by fell moods. The ghost body is used to create the artifact. This is also amusing because when you look at a ghost wounds with V, all body parts are listed gray, meaning they are gone. The affected dwarf will then kill another dwarf because they didn't get the materials they needed for the construction. It is possible for a ghost to become the outpost liaison of a civilization. Ghostly fisher dwarves will keep fishing in the afterlife, and ghostly animal trainers will gladly train your captured animals for you. There's links if you want to read more for some of these, so just go to the Dwarf Fortress Wikia, Ghost, and then down to Science on Dwarves if you're curious to know more about a specific one. When a ghost rises, their entry in the dead missing list will change accordingly. So, should a dead cook return as a ghost, their profession in the dead missing list will turn into ghostly cook. Ghosts will occasionally claim built burial receptacles as tombs for themselves. These tombs must be unassigned before anything can be placed within them. That's cool. I didn't know that ghosts would take care of themselves if you left enough empty tombs. Male ghosts are considered gelded. That's actually true. I'm going to try to include that in my in my footage, but I checked that after I read this and I was like, what? Yeah, they count as gelded, I guess specifically just to detag them as something that might make a baby with something. But yeah, they are technically tagged as gelded. I guess it makes sense. If you don't have a body, you don't technically have that part of your anatomy either. But still, inconsistent terminology anyway. And I mean, honestly, even one or two ghosts can be too much because they have really negative effects on the dwarves that witness them. We'll get into more detail with that later, but as soon as I start to notice ghost trouble on any map, what I'll usually do is I'll build a stoneworks under one of my hotkeys. So it's very easy to find, I can just hit all my hotkeys and be like, oh, there's that stoneworks. And right next to that stoneworks, I have a stone stockpile and a furniture stockpile, which is where we hold memorial slabs. And so I just order 50 slabs in the work orders. Those are all immediately made at that stoneworker shop. And then when you're in, because I have that stoneworker shop directly under a hotkey, okay, you follow? This is important. This is game changing. So I can just hit all my hotkeys, find that stoneworker shop. You're going to have to select that specific shop. And within that menu only, you can choose engrave memorial slab. And then when you go into that menu, when you go into the engrave slab menu in any stoneworker, but in this case, the one that I set up as easy to find when I'm rushing, it'll give you a list of every dwarf who has been declared dead. And that's very important. So yeah, so you go into the stoneworker shop and it's going to have a list of every dwarf that died or went missing long enough that they're presumed dead. And it's going to actually have a status for each one. And it's going to say either memorialized, which means that their ghost is satisfied, it's not going to come back. Not memorialized, which means that they are now on a timer to eventually probably come back as a ghost, depending on their temperament, depending on a lot of factors. But so the three states are memorialized, not memorialized, and ghost, active ghost. Obviously, you want to memorialize the active ghosts. Now, after you've engraved the slab with the name of the problem ghost or the anticipated ghost. After you've done that, you still have to place it. And so what I do in this quick fix scenario, if you followed me in terms of how you're dealing with your ghosts, then that hotkey that leads to the stoneworker shop, you're just going to have like a big graveyard memorial. Just every block lists one dwarf who's died. And that's honestly the neatest. I would say that takes up the least amount of space because tombs are tricky. You have to set them because it's a zone with a coffin inside of it. So it's more work to set up. And also arguably, in addition to more time, it can take up more space because a tomb can be bigger and nobles will ask for a huge tomb. Point is that memorials just take up one little space and it does satisfy all ghosts. It'll get rid of any ghost. So, I mean, you can make the argument that my way is the most efficient way to do it. Let me know in the comments if you have any other ideas for that, for how to even more quickly honor all dead on a map. Well, my friends, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for listening. As always, I like to remind everybody, liking this video, subscribing if you haven't. Those are both really helpful for this channel. Help me make time to make more videos like this. Thanks as always. I'll catch you in the next one.